morning. Welcome to another Your Lurgan podcast. I'm Donagh McCone.
And I'm Michael Scott in Magherafelt.
In Magherafelt, that's a bit different for the weekend it's in it, and for a very good reason, of course, Michael.
Yes, I am up at the election count, which by the time you listen to this podcast, you will already know the result of. So, well done you. This is the very early stages that we're recording this in of the day. So I don't know what's happening yet. I don't know who's in, who's out.
Well, the wonder of science, we might be able to add an update from yourself as the weekend progresses. Just keep your fingers crossed, because if you're watching this podcast, you may see the results coming up. The election has been in the news all week, and we can mention individuals. We can talk about things that we can't normally talk about or couldn't talk about for the last 2 or 3 weeks because of this thing called Purdue. Not that we're going to pick holes in or different things, but the election has been on the front pages for the last 2 or 3 weeks. How do you see the campaign as having gone from your point of view? What does it look like, would you say?
Steady. It's been very sort of low key almost. The campaign, I think most of the build-ups could actually come in the last few days since the debate started happening. Now I think the real story is going to be the count, to see what happens, to see what people are really worried about. Is it the likes of the protocol, or is it bread and butter issues like healthcare, education, stuff like that? So it's going to be a very interesting afternoon here to see what happens next, because we just don't know. It really is one of those elections that's just too close to call.
It seems to be everyone on tenterhooks to see just how things will go. Will the majority that was DUP change to become a majority, as it were? If not a majority, certainly the biggest party going to Sinn Féin. And this constituency, the upper band, is at the core of some of that, isn't it? I mean, this is where seats might swing.
Yeah, I'm just looking over here to my right. I can see Dolores Kelly sitting with her team. She had a billboard out the other day basically saying it's down to me or Diane Dodds. Now, it could also be that Owen Tennyson plays a bit of a part in terms of who gets that fifth seat. So it's going to be a very interesting outcome of our band.
Well, certainly. My own experience during the week going to the polls, because I do like to vote. I'm not going to tell you who or what or how I voted. It's none of your business. It's plenty of my business. And it was interesting outside the polling booth, one of the local ones here in Lurgan. There was quite a collection. And I'd forgotten this because I haven't been in this part of the world for quite a few years for elections. But it was quite interesting. I'll use the word interesting. You can take your own interpretation as to how many posters there were outside from various parties. And they were trying to give you the last minute switch. You should do this. You should do. Here's ours. Here's theirs. And I felt like, do you not think people are just intelligent enough to kind of work that out themselves and allow them to go freely, just in case you might get the last vote? Does that strike you as being pernickety, or just should I just accept it, grin and bear it?
I don't know, to be quite honest. Like, it's an election. People are going to say things and do things, and I don't know. I just be glad when it's all over, to be quite honest.
Yeah, get your head out of the space. One of the items that came up for discussion, there was 3 or 4 people asking the different political parties, and I'll not say which party was asked or who said what or whatever, but there was concern about the SRC development that's proposed for the city park, or it's going to be in the middle of the city park. I wonder, it may not have been a big issue in the election, but it's still out there, isn't it? I mean, it's still causing concern what is happening and what's proposed to be happening and what is happening. Nobody seems to know.
Yeah, I know there's people out there do feel that is a really big issue. They're concerned about what they see as a destruction of the park. Other people see it as progression, and a facility is going to bring jobs, going to bring development to the community. So yeah, I mean, it's one of those issues that I think will probably play out over the next year or two with the council more so than your MLAs. But I suppose it's one that all politicians in the end will want to get engaged on to see what exactly happens with that. Because I mean, the SRC, I mean, they bring a lot of jobs to the area. They bring a lot of development, as I said. So it's going to be one of those issues that we will see develop over the next few months.
Yeah, we'll have to follow that up once the election's behind it. Can we put the election by the by for a wee while? With all votes being counted in the Upper Band constituency, we now have our first Alliance MLA. It's Owen Tennyson who won the final seat in the constituency. He'll replace the SDLP's Dolores Kelly after she was eliminated from the count on Friday evening. The four other incumbents, Sinn Féin's John O'Dowd, the DUP's Johnny Buckley and Diane Dodds, and the UUP leader Doug Beattie, were all returned. With the quota to be elected set at 9,531, Mr O'Dowd, who topped the poll with 9,242 first preference votes, was elected on count 4. It took 8 counts before the final election decision was made for the 5th seat. What else has been happening this week?
Yeah, with a really interesting story there from the air ambulance and a Lurgan man, Ryan Nelson, who suffered a cardiac arrest back in August last year. He was in a really bad way, and he went out he come home to go for a coffee with his wife, and took a cardiac arrest on the doorstep, which is frightening how that can happen just so quickly. A man who was fit and healthy, played football, loved his football and being outdoors, and all of a sudden he's taking a heart attack. So he survived, and then as a result of that, some good came out. They went and raised over £17,000 for the air ambulance, which is a phenomenal amount. And fair play to Ryan for doing that. Just goes to show, some good can come from really bad situations.
And absolutely, and wonderful to see someone so thankful, prepared to put himself out there despite the circumstances. Many of us would just say, "Oh, it's all right. You're safe. Go about your business there." But wanting to give something back is really, really special, I have to say. And of course, the other aspect is that the air ambulance is necessary. Well, what is good to see, and you will be aware of this, is the increase in defibrillators in various locations. That's always a positive sign. You see them here and there where you never have seen them before, and they do save lives.
They do, absolutely. And you see them out, every club, every shop, nearly. A lot of shops who have them there, and they're a really good community thing to have. And more groups and organisations are very keen to get them in. So yeah, that can be a good thing.
So a good positive story there on the back of negative circumstance. Always good to hear that. It's almost like it's not quite a story of redemption, but it's a story of goodness. We always like those, because you don't always get that in the news, do you?
No, you don't really know. I suppose that's mostly our fault for not sourcing out good stories or good news stories, but it is what it is, Don. What can you do?
So what other stories have we to look at? Good, bad, and indifferent.
Well, this one's probably more indifferent, I'll say. I was out yesterday, Thursday to you, with Rita and I, who are based in Portadown. They have launched a brand new scheme in the ABC borough called Golden Strands, and that's basically to encourage people to take up relationship counselling and develop skills that will help their relationships with people. Some scary stats, I can't give them away at this stage because it's embargoed until Monday, but it's going to be really interesting to watch on our website on Monday, and some of the statistics which we'll have for you as well.
And when it says relate, I'm not trying to delve into the secrets of it. We're talking about you have to be in a relationship. There's no point in me kind of talking to myself here, is there?
We're not talking that's relationships with other people, or as in like your husband, your wife, or whatever. We're talking, relationships with friends. We're talking about relationships with, co-workers, stuff like that. One of the points that was being made was that these relationships are all vital for the your mental health, and getting on with people and working with people. If you sit and you're one of those people who just doesn't get on with anybody, I mean, your life's not going to be great, to be quite honest. I think
Well,
it's
we did touch on mental health and the idea of conversation and talking from before. Once again, back to my own experience, where it was impossible to relate to anyone in the short term until I came out of myself, as it were. I don't know whether it was because it was a lower medication, or perhaps it was just something clicked within me that I did have to reach out, that I did have to have a relationship with someone else, that I had to speak to somebody. Otherwise, I was locked in here. And that's what really is the main problem, that you're locked in this head. You've got no one else to relate to. Obviously, that's the name of their whole circumstance. And that relating to others allows whatever you have in your head to get out there in one sense, but it also allows you to get out of in here at the same time.
the scary thing is, actually, there's more people who feel like that than we realise, as these stats will prove. So it's, as I said to you, as I said last week in the podcast, it's great to talk. Go and talk to somebody and just get whatever your problem is off your chest.
We've called this program the Golden Threads program, and it's supported through the Department of Health Mental Health Support Fund, and that's provided through the Community Foundation for Northern Ireland. And we decided to work in this area because in terms of looking at levels of need, there was a high level of need identified for working in the area, and also Relate has been based and working in the ABC area for over 25 years now. So it was a natural fit for us to try and look at that, obviously, because we have our clients referred through and we work with them, so we already have a client base here. And we also wanted to then expand out and work with other organisations who are helping people in the area, and see if the work that we are doing can then help those people through developing and delivering those types of education awareness courses that people might want to avail of. And obviously then trying to see if it makes an impact on people during that 2-year period.
Well, we look forward to the report, which will be with us on Monday, you say?
Monday evening, 7:00.
Okay, that's one worth watching and sharing too, if you're listening to the podcast. That's always a good thing. If you like the stories that we do and share them on social media, that really helps to get the story out there, and it helps us to kind of build the audience. And the audience is building, Michael, isn't it?
It is. We've actually, our most recent stats were up now over 150,000 page views in the last month, which is fantastic for a website that's been going for a year. So yeah, really, really pleased with how things are going.
We better keep our faces off it. That will put people off. How and ever. So what other stories can you relate to this week?
Very good link. Almac have made a big investment. They got planning approval for their new facility, which is going to cost 300 million, I believe it was. Plenty of jobs as well. It's a big boost for the community. An employer who have brought a lot to the Craigavon area, so that's a great boost for the area. We have great coverage of that over the last few days.
It's been an incredible story over the years. I remember it at its very start. I'm going to the name of the gentleman, Sir Alan, who founded it, Cookstown-based man. Remember talking with him 15, 20 years ago, when it was in not quite its fruition. It started, and the amount of growth has been incredible. Now he's passed away, 5, 10, maybe more years, and yet his legacy is still there. And it's a phenomenal employer. People from all around Craigavon, Lurgan, Portadown, and much further as well. And these are really good jobs, Michael, really good, high-paying, well-thought-of jobs, and offer, even within it, which is really amazing, great potential to move up through company and to expand knowledge. They encourage their workforce in all sorts of ways. I know that they have what we call a Toastmasters club, It's a club and organization of people for public speaking. So they're encouraging the workforce to get better at public speaking, to deliver, to be more self-confident and all sorts of stuff. And I'm sure they have half a dozen other projects as well that are building the skills of those who work there. And that is encouraging to be in an organization like that. I mean, that's how Google is so popular to work in. That's how Facebook is so popular to work in. They have a whole ethos, not just give you the money, go and do the work, encourage you, bring you forward. So it's a fantastic organization. That's Almac. I think I'll go for a job now.
You might get one. We might lose you.
I have no skill in science. That's the only thing. So what other stories can we look for?
Well, you've been out looking at the history of Lurgan Show, and I thought it was a very interesting story.
It's a fascinating story. I mean, I just covered a part of it. I don't have the book with me today. There's a whole raft of stuff that's there to be found, some characters down the years. I wanted to keep it as compact as possible and yet get a flavor of something different, because it's not every day you have an aircraft or a plane landing in your park, let's be honest. Now, I think that I heard that they had a drone on one occasion over the years, kind of doing a video of the event live, as it were. That was one thing, a little podcast, maybe the size of a little drone the size of my hand. But to see this massive big airplane, I don't know if you saw the pictures. So we're standing at the spot where you think this famous photograph was taken, John?
That's correct, Donagh. This is the photograph from actually 1914, 2 years after that first show in the park here of the aviator. He was here actually along with support from the Daily Mail back then. And yeah, the photograph shows a house on the immediate left, just at my thumb here, and that's the house that's still present at the head of Windsor Avenue today.
And there's a kind of beautiful red brick at the bottom, but we can't see it here. We'll get a close-up, as it were. And the fountains, of course, weren't here at that stage either.
That's correct. The Jubilee fountains obviously moved here in years later.
And there was some record in our Lurgan Mail of the time.
Yeah, there's a record again in print in our history book here of the flying exhibition by Salmot. Noted as an interesting spectacle. Exactly how many people were attracted to Lurgan by the agricultural show, and how many went with the primary object of seeing exhibition flights by Salmot, a very daring and accomplished aviator, it would of course be impossible to say. And that's the Lurgan Mail from September 1912. So that's a clear record the week following the show, and it's a great example to ourselves to show how important that first show of 1912 was, that first show being the reformed Lurgan Show Society.
Any aviators planned for this one?
None that I'm aware of, but certainly if you can organise any air shows or that sort of thing, we'd certainly take it on board. Everyone's welcome to come forward with ideas. And just on that note, Donagh, we're always looking for more volunteers. Lurgan Show is a voluntary run organisation. We put 12 months planning into the event, and as I say, everyone's welcome to come on board, give us the ideas of what they want to see at the show. Obviously we work on budgets, but everything we reap in is reaped back out, hopefully by the community. And importantly, there'll be something here for everyone on show day, Saturday the 4th of June.
Incredible. I mean, it was like Mr. Blériot going across the channel, or the Wright brothers landing just beside where the actual fountains are. Can you imagine that coming into land just on that day, where you've never seen an airplane? These days we see the chemical trails or the airplanes going up in the sky, and we take that for granted. But just to see this plane flying in and then taking, and this was the best piece, which maybe we didn't convey, local people then took a chance to go on this airplane ride. I mean, that's like going to Portrush and getting on one of the rides there and going on the roller coaster. But can you imagine doing that on an airplane, which had only just been invented, and flying around Lurgan? Can you imagine that? I did ask John Harrison. John, would you be able to put us in touch with any of the people who actually went on that but it was 1912. He hasn't come back with anybody yet. But I thought it was magnificent. And my own memories of the idea of the park and going to the show were great too. We didn't include those, but I have happy memories of going to the show, seeing all the stuff that you'd never see. I don't mean cows and horses, because we saw cows and horses where I lived out in the country, but just to see that bundle and the hustle and the bustle of people, it really is a special, special day. And it's so good to see it back and in the hands of people like John Harrison, who's the vice chair, and many, many others. And they're all volunteers. It's a fabulous organization. I'm really looking forward to it. And I think I've told you already, you're aware of the fact we have been, well, tacitly, we haven't received the invitation just yet, that we, as Your Lurgan, will be there on the day to do some of those reports. At least I hope that we will.
Yes, you're going along. I'm actually away that weekend. So yes, you're going along. We'll be on well to do a few lives and whatnot on it. So yeah, we'll bring a bit of a flavour of the park show.
Well, I hope you're not going.
Which is great.
I hope you're not going too far, because we wouldn't want you to miss it, because I know you'll be glued to everything that happens while you're away.
Oh, don't worry. I'll be dandering around, my phone in my hand, keeping an eye on you. Don't worry.
Oh, you will? Okay. Well, that's we can't get up to any mischief. So that's coming up June 4th. It's Saturday, June 4th. It's just over a month away, and 4 Saturdays from yesterday, actually, isn't it? Down thereabouts. Yeah. So it should be good fun. We look forward to that. Anyway, to other news.
Potholes. We've had a bit of a story about potholes. Now, the councillor in question is a pusher, which is Tandragee, Rich Hill, etc. Alderman Jim Spears, who's the group leader in the UUP. Now, he's been given off about what he described as an imbalance of activity by the road service across the borough in relation to potholes. Now, having been down some of the roads in that part of the world, as that is where I live these days, yeah, I can see where he's sort of coming from. The roads in around Lurgan and whatnot are slightly better. However, they're not great. They're really not great. So, I mean, this is a problem that's been going on for a while in terms of our roads. You know, some people would argue it's down to a lack of investment, issues, probably which could be solved by the people who are standing in this crowd room that I'm in. You know, but here we are. We're bumping about all over the place in our cars.
I read the story and I tried to figure out what is this trying to get at. It says, I'm not making an allegation. He wasn't making any allegations, but he was wanting people to take note that perhaps in his particular area, there was an imbalance with regards to what was being offered. And then in other areas, there was more being offered. I did see one quote in our article about one particular councillor who said he was a bit fed up in people positioning, particularly his town, I think it was Drumore, as being the poor relation, and then pointed out, in fact, we've just received something like £3 or £4 million for a development here, so we're not the poor relations. Isn't it just a cliche that we're talking about here? And maybe the words used are creating this perception that it's a poor me situation, when in fact it's just not about that at all. It's resources that you have, as you say, and where it's divided, been sent to.
You'll probably find every councillor, every politician, particularly at this time of year, wants to be seen to be fighting for their corner and their area. So that doesn't surprise me. But like, potholes are bad no matter where you go. So the sooner there's more investment for it.
I've just received this fact from the Department of Infrastructure. The Department of Infrastructure have discovered a couple of potholes in the Tandragee area, and they're looking into them.
Hey, caused by me.
Old jokes are the oldest. The football season hasn't quite wrapped up, but it really has. Certainly, we have our champions in Division in the Premiership and in Division 1, and we've got some new additions next season. But is there much else happening in local soccer?
Well, The playoffs are coming up. We're waiting. Obviously, we don't know at this stage who Glenavon will face in those playoffs. We'll soon find out. But yes, they're coming up. I think the first game will be on Tuesday. It could be Wednesday, I'm not sure. Just all depends what way things play out. So Your Lurgan will have all the details about who's playing who and when. Probably from Sunday morning.
There was a big thing about Craigavon City this week. They won some football match that was a bit special.
They did. They made a bit of history. They won the Alan Wilson Cup, which is the first time I think they've ever won that. They beat Drumore. It was their first intermediate trophy. That's what it was. And they brought 400 fans to the match, which is incredible. For on the Ulster side. So yeah, well done to them. Hopefully the first of a bit of success for them.
So if that's the sort of level improvement, does that mean that they start to go up some of the leagues within Mid Ulster, that they may make it to the bigger leagues, or are they going to be stuck there forever?
Well, that was a cup. Well, probably not. I think they'll probably stick around intermediate levels, probably right where they'll stay for now. I mean, who knows? Maybe 20, 30 years down the line, they could be playing Irish League football, but for now, Mid Ulster football is where it's at for Craigavon City.
Well, we look forward to your final coverage, and if we can include it in this podcast, we certainly will. Michael, thank you for joining me. I'll have a musician or two to bring you over the course of the next week. A couple of local musicians, one who's studied through college, through university level, and another who's still at college, very young man too, but we'll tell you more about that in the coming weeks. I'll be out and about here and there, and we look forward to your company on future Your Lurgan podcasts. If you want to get in touch, it's info@YourLurgan. We're on the web, www.yourlurgan.com, and we're delighted to have you. Anything you'd like to say to us before you leave us? We're counting down now, as it were, to the end.
And I'd like to say, yes, if anybody knows how to get to Magherafelt and knows how to get to the Meadowbank Leisure Centre, I could travel back in time to Friday evening and can send me a pizza. We'd really appreciate it.
Yes, good luck with that one. Thank you for
I haven't
joining
found
us.
the canteen facilities yet.
Oh, don't worry. I'm sure you will. And like myself, you'll not fade away to a mountain. You'll be all right. Michael, Scott, thank you. I'm Donagh McCone. And he's frozen out. Thank you for joining us on Your Lurgan podcast.